Imagine if you could transform your life, achieve your biggest goals, and build lasting success, not through drastic changes or overwhelming efforts, but through small, consistent actions. What if you could achieve everything you want by making tiny adjustments to your daily habits, adjustments that are so small you barely notice them, but which over time lead to massive, life-altering results? That's the promise of Atomic Habits by James Clear, a practical, scientifically backed guide to building good habits, breaking bad ones, and mastering the tiny daily actions that can change everything. Whether you want to improve your health, boost your productivity, or cultivate a new skill, this book shows you that the power to change lies not in grand gestures, but in the small, incremental adjustments you make every single day. Atomic Habits. Summary. Consider for a moment the positive changes you'd like to make in your life. Maybe you want to adopt a healthier lifestyle, read more books, learn a new language, or master a musical instrument. Whatever your goals, you've probably realized that sticking to new behaviors is often the hardest part. Simply wishing to be healthier or more knowledgeable doesn't automatically translate into action. Just because you decide to eat more vegetables or spend more time reading doesn't mean those habits will stick without effort. This is where understanding the mechanics of habits comes into play, and that's precisely what Atomic Habits by James Clear is all about. In this in-depth exploration, I'll guide you through the core principles of James Clear's best-selling book, Atomic Habits. Together, we'll discover that the secret to making significant changes in your life isn't about radical transformations. You don't need to overhaul your behavior or reinvent yourself entirely. Instead, you can achieve remarkable results through tiny, consistent changes that, over time, compound into life-altering habits. Chapter 1. The Surprising Power of Tiny Habits. Let's start with a story to illustrate the incredible power of small habits. Imagine a plane taking off from Los Angeles, bound for New York City. Shortly after takeoff, the pilot makes a tiny adjustment, shifting the plane's course by just 3.5 degrees. This change is so minor that neither the passengers nor the pilot notice anything different. However, over the course of the journey, this small shift in direction leads to a massive change in the final destination. Instead of landing in New York, the plane ends up in Washington, D.C. This example highlights a fundamental truth about life. Small changes, when compounded over time, can lead to vastly different outcomes. This concept, known as the aggregation of marginal gains, is at the heart of Atomic Habits. It's the idea that tiny improvements, when consistently applied, can lead to significant progress over time. Consider your own life. If you're out of shape today, going for a single 20-minute jog won't make you fit overnight. Similarly, eating one unhealthy meal won't lead to immediate weight gain. However, if you jog every day for 20 minutes, you'll eventually become fitter. If you regularly indulge in unhealthy foods, you'll gradually notice the weight creeping on. The key takeaway here is that small, seemingly insignificant actions repeated consistently can have a powerful impact on your life. The problem many of us face is that we get discouraged when we don't see immediate results. If you've ever tried to save money, you know the feeling. You diligently set aside a portion of your income each month, but the balance grows so slowly that it feels like you're not making any progress. This is where the concept of focusing on your trajectory rather than your current results becomes crucial. Even if your savings account doesn't look impressive today, if you're consistently saving, you're on the right path. Over time, your efforts will compound, and you'll see the results you desire. The idea of small, incremental changes might sound too simple to be effective, but the science behind it is compelling. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Just as money multiplies through compound interest, the effects of your habits multiply as you repeat them. They seem to make little difference on any given day, and yet the impact they deliver over the months and years can be enormous. It is only when looking back 2, 5, or perhaps 10 years later that the value of good habits and the cost of bad ones becomes strikingly apparent. Imagine you're aiming to improve by just 1% each day. It doesn't seem like much, hardly noticeable in fact. But over a year, these small improvements compound and can make you nearly 37 times better than when you started. On the flip side, if you let your habits decline by 1% each day, you'll be left with only about 3% of your original capabilities by the end of the year. What starts as a small win or a minor setback accumulates into something much more. The most powerful outcomes of any compounding process are delayed. You need to be patient, but if you're willing to wait and to keep investing in yourself, the rewards can be remarkable. To ensure that you're on the right trajectory, it's essential to develop and maintain good habits. But how do you do that? How can you ensure that the habits you want to form actually stick? The answer lies in understanding how habits work, and that's what we'll explore in the next chapter. Chapter 2. Understanding the mechanics of habit formation. Habits are powerful because they operate almost automatically, freeing up mental energy for other tasks. Think about how you react when you walk into a dark room. You don't have to think about what to do next. You automatically reach for the light switch. This simple action is an example of a habit, a behavior that has become so ingrained that it happens without conscious thought. But how exactly are habits formed? The foundation of our understanding of habits can be traced back to the work of psychologist Edward Thorndike in the 19th century. Thorndike conducted an experiment in which he placed cats inside a box. To escape, the cats had to press a lever. Initially, the cats would scratch, paw, and explore randomly until they stumbled upon the lever by accident. After several repetitions, the cats learned to go directly to the lever as soon as they were placed in the box, escaping in seconds. Thorndike's experiment revealed a key insight into habit formation. Behaviors that are followed by satisfying outcomes tend to be repeated until they become automatic. This is the essence of habit formation, and it's a process that has been further refined by modern psychology. Today, we understand that habits are composed of 4 essential components: cue, craving, response, and reward. Cue. This is the trigger that initiates the habit. For example, walking into a dark room cues you to turn on the light. Craving. This is the desire to achieve a change in state. In the case of entering a dark room, the craving is to move from darkness to light. Response. This is the actual behavior, the action you take in response to the cue. In this example, it's flipping the light switch. Reward. The reward is the positive feeling you get from completing the habit, such as the comfort of seeing your surroundings clearly. Understanding these 4 components is the first step toward building new habits that stick. But how do you go about creating these habits in your own life? That's what we'll explore in the next chapter. Habits form based on a cycle known as the habit loop, which consists of the 4 components we just discussed. The cue triggers your brain to initiate a behavior. It's a bit of information that predicts a reward. Our prehistoric ancestors may have felt the warmth of the sun on their skin, which acted as a cue to find water and stay hydrated. Today, a phone buzz in your pocket is a cue to check your messages, anticipating a potential social reward. Cravings are the second step and are the motivational force behind every habit. Without craving a change, we have no reason to act. What you crave is not the habit itself, but the change in state it delivers. You don't crave brushing your teeth, you crave a clean mouth. You don't crave smoking a cigarette, you crave the feeling of relief it provides. The response is the habit you perform, which can take the form of a thought or an action. Whether a response occurs depends on how motivated you are and how much friction is associated with the behavior. The final step is the reward, the end goal of every habit. The reward delivers the pleasure or relief you were seeking and reinforces the habit loop, making it more likely that you'll repeat the behavior in the future. The key to making lasting changes in your life lies in understanding and manipulating this habit loop. By consciously designing your environment and routines, you can encourage the formation of good habits and discourage bad ones. Let's delve into the specifics of how you can do this in the next chapter. Chapter 3. The Art of Designing Habits That Stick. Now that we've covered the basic mechanics of habits, let's talk about how to design habits that will last. One of the most effective strategies for building new habits is to make the cues for those habits as obvious as possible. Suppose you want to learn to play the guitar, but you find it difficult to practice consistently. You've bought a beautiful instrument, learned a few chords, but somehow days go by without you picking it up. What can you do to make practicing a habit? One simple yet powerful tactic is to place your guitar in a prominent location where you can't miss it. Say in the middle of your living room. This makes the cue for your habit, the guitar, highly visible, increasing the likelihood that you'll practice. This strategy of making cues obvious can be applied to virtually any habit. If you want to start drinking more water, place water bottles around your house or on your desk at work. If you want to read more, keep a book on your nightstand or carry one with you throughout the day. The goal is to design your environment in a way that makes the cues for your desired habits impossible to ignore. However, creating obvious cues is just the first step. To truly lock in a new habit, you need to take it a step further by creating what's known as an implementation intention. This involves specifying when and where you will perform the habit, turning vague intentions into concrete plans. For example, instead of saying, "I'm going to exercise more," create a specific plan. I will go for a 30-minute run at 7 a.m. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. By specifying the time and place for your habit, you make it much more likely that you'll follow through. Let's consider another example. You want to develop a habit of meditating every day. Instead of just telling yourself you'll meditate, create an implementation intention. I will meditate for 10 minutes every morning right after I brush my teeth. Notice how this intention includes both a specific time, morning, and a specific action, after brushing your teeth. This kind of specificity makes it easier for your brain to remember to perform the habit. But even with an implementation intention, you might still find it challenging to stick to a new habit. This is where habit stacking comes into play. Habit stacking involves linking a new habit to an existing one, using the existing habit as a cue for the new behavior. For example, if you already have a habit of drinking coffee every morning, you could stack a new habit on top of it. After I finish drinking my coffee, I will meditate for 10 minutes. By tying the new habit to an existing one, you create a natural cue that triggers the new behavior. Another effective strategy for making habits stick is to start with habits that are so easy you can't say no. This is where the 2-minute rule comes in. The 2-minute rule states that when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. This makes the habit so easy to start that it's hard to resist. For instance, if you want to start running, don't commit to running 3 miles right away. Instead, start with a habit that takes less than 2 minutes, putting on your running shoes and stepping outside. If you want to start reading more, don't aim to finish a book in a week. Instead, commit to reading just 1 page each night before bed. The idea is to make the first step so small and manageable that it feels almost effortless. This approach works because it helps you overcome the inertia that often prevents us from starting new habits. By making the habit easy to begin, you increase the likelihood that you'll continue with it over the long term. And once you've started, you'll often find that you want to keep going. In addition to making your habits easy to start, it's also important to make them attractive. One way to do this is by leveraging the power of temptation bundling, linking a habit you need to develop with an activity you enjoy. Let's say you want to exercise more, but struggle with motivation. You could allow yourself to watch your favorite TV show only while you're at the gym. By bundling the activity you need to do, exercise, with the activity you enjoy, watching TV, you create a positive association with working out, driven by the anticipation of watching your show. This strategy is based on the idea that humans are motivated by the anticipation of reward. When you bundle an unattractive habit with a pleasurable activity, you make the habit more appealing and increase the likelihood that you'll stick with it. To illustrate this point, consider the story of Ronan Byrne, an engineering student who wanted to exercise more but found it boring. He loved watching Netflix, so he created a device that connected his exercise bike to his computer. The device allowed Netflix to play only when he was pedaling at a certain speed. By bundling the activity he needed to do, exercise, with the activity he enjoyed, watching Netflix, Ronan was able to stick to his workout routine. The takeaway here is simple. If you want to build a habit, find a way to make it immediately rewarding. This could mean bundling it with a pleasurable activity, setting up a reward system, or simply focusing on the positive feelings that the habit brings. Chapter 4. The Role of Reward in Sustaining Habits. We've touched on the importance of making habits rewarding, but let's dive deeper into why this is so crucial for long-term success. In 1954, neuroscientists James Olds and Peter Milner conducted an experiment that revealed a fundamental truth about human behavior. We are driven by the anticipation of reward. Olds and Milner placed electrodes in the brains of lab rats, blocking the release of dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. The results were shocking. The rats lost all motivation to engage in any behavior, whether it was eating, drinking, or even moving. Within a few days, they all died of thirst. This experiment demonstrated the critical role that dopamine plays in motivation. When we anticipate a reward, our brain releases dopamine, which drives us to take action. This anticipation is what makes habits stick. But here's the key insight. You don't have to actually receive the reward to get the dopamine hit. The mere anticipation of a reward is enough to trigger the release of dopamine. This means that if you can make your habits something you look forward to, you'll be much more likely to follow through with them. This is where temptation bundling becomes a powerful tool. By linking a habit with an activity you enjoy, you create a situation where you anticipate a reward, making the habit more attractive and easier to stick with. For example, if you enjoy listening to podcasts, you could bundle this activity with your daily walk or run. The anticipation of listening to a new episode of your favorite podcast will make the walk or run more appealing, increasing the likelihood that you'll stick to the habit. But rewards don't always have to be immediate or external. Sometimes the reward is simply the positive feeling that comes from completing the habit itself. For instance, after a workout, you might feel a sense of accomplishment and physical well-being. These internal rewards are just as powerful as external ones in reinforcing habits. The key to sustaining habits over the long term is to ensure that they provide some form of immediate satisfaction. This can be challenging, especially for habits that offer long-term rewards, such as saving money or eating healthy. These habits often require delayed gratification, which can make them difficult to maintain. To overcome this challenge, you need to find ways to bring some immediate satisfaction into the equation. For example, if you're trying to save money, you could set up a reward system where you treat yourself to something small every time you reach a savings milestone. If you're trying to eat healthier, focus on the immediate benefits of how good you feel after a nutritious meal. Another strategy for sustaining habits is to use habit tracking. Habit tracking involves keeping a record of your progress, which can provide a sense of accomplishment and reinforce the habit loop. This simple act of tracking your habits can be surprisingly motivating, as it allows you to see the progress you're making and provides an immediate reward in the form of a visual representation of your success. For example, you could use a calendar to mark off each day that you stick to your habit. Seeing a streak of completed days can be incredibly satisfying and can motivate you to keep the streak going. The longer the streak, the more motivated you'll be to maintain it, creating a positive feedback loop. In addition to habit tracking, another powerful tool for maintaining habits is accountability. When you make a commitment to someone else, whether it's a friend, partner, or coach, you're more likely to follow through because you don't want to let them down. One way to leverage accountability is to create a habit contract. A habit contract is a written agreement that outlines the specific actions you will take to build or maintain a habit, along with the consequences for failing to do so. For example, Brian Harris, an entrepreneur from Nashville, created a habit contract with his wife and personal trainer. He committed to tracking his food intake and weighing himself weekly. If he failed to meet these commitments, he would have to pay a financial penalty. The contract worked because it leveraged social accountability. Harris didn't want to lose face in front of his wife and trainer. You can create your own habit contract with a friend, partner, or coworker. The key is to set clear expectations and agree on consequences that are significant enough to motivate you to stay on track. Chapter 5. Simplifying Habits for Long-Term Success. Now that we've explored the importance of rewards and accountability, let's talk about another crucial factor in habit formation: simplicity. The easier a habit is to perform, the more likely it is to stick. We're all naturally inclined to choose the path of least resistance. This is why we often find ourselves engaging in behaviors that require minimal effort, such as scrolling through social media or snacking on junk food. On the other hand, habits that require more effort, like exercising or learning a new skill, are harder to maintain. To increase the likelihood that your habits will stick, you need to make them as easy as possible. One effective strategy is to reduce friction, the factors that make it harder to perform a habit. For example, If you want to eat healthier, you could prepare meals in advance so that healthy food is readily available. If you want to read more, keep a book on your nightstand or carry one with you throughout the day. By reducing the effort required to perform the habit, you make it easier to stick with. Another way to simplify habits is to use the 2-minute rule, which we briefly discussed earlier. The 2-minute rule states that when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. This makes the habit so easy to start that it's hard to resist. For instance, if you want to start flossing, commit to flossing just one tooth. If you want to start journaling, commit to writing just one sentence. The idea is to make the first step so small and manageable that it feels almost effortless. Once you've started, you'll often find that you want to keep going. The 2-minute rule is effective because it helps you overcome the inertia that often prevents us from starting new habits. By making the habit easy to begin, you increase the likelihood that you'll continue with it over the long term. In addition to reducing friction and using the 2-minute rule, another way to simplify habits is to focus on environment design. Your environment plays a significant role in shaping your behavior, and by designing your environment to support your habits, you can make it easier to stick to them. For example, if you want to exercise more, create a home gym or set up a workout space where you can easily access your equipment. If you want to eat healthier, stock your kitchen with nutritious foods and remove unhealthy snacks from your home. By designing your environment to support your habits, you make it easier to perform the desired behavior. Chapter 6: The Importance of Identity in Habit Formation. As we continue our exploration of atomic habits, it's time to discuss a concept that is often overlooked in discussions about behavior change: identity. Your identity is the set of beliefs you hold about yourself, and these beliefs play a crucial role in shaping your habits. Many people approach habit formation by focusing on outcomes. They want to lose weight, earn more money, or learn a new skill. While there's nothing wrong with setting outcome-based goals, this approach can be limiting because it doesn't address the underlying beliefs that drive your behavior. Instead of focusing solely on outcomes, it's more effective to focus on identity-based habits. This means asking yourself, who do I want to become, rather than what do I want to achieve? By focusing on your identity, you can create habits that align with your desired self-image. For example, instead of setting a goal to run a marathon, you could focus on becoming the type of person who runs every day. Instead of setting a goal to read 50 books a year, you could focus on becoming the type of person who reads every day. By focusing on the type of person you want to become, you create habits that are aligned with your identity, making them more likely to stick. One of the most powerful aspects of identity-based habits is that they allow you to leverage the power of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance occurs when your actions are not aligned with your beliefs, creating a sense of discomfort that motivates you to change either your actions or your beliefs. For example, if you see yourself as a healthy person but you consistently eat junk food, you'll experience cognitive dissonance because your actions are not aligned with your identity. To resolve this dissonance, you'll be motivated to either change your eating habits or change your self-perception. By focusing on identity-based habits, you can use cognitive dissonance to your advantage. When your actions align with your desired identity, you'll experience a sense of satisfaction and reinforcement, making it easier to maintain the habit. But how do you go about changing your identity? The key is to start with small wins. Every time you perform a habit that aligns with your desired identity, you cast a vote for that identity. Over time, these small wins accumulate, and your self-perception begins to shift. For example, if you want to become a writer, start by writing just one sentence every day. Each time you write, you cast a vote for your identity as a writer. As you accumulate more and more votes, your self-perception begins to change, and you start to see yourself as a writer. This shift in identity is powerful because it creates a positive feedback loop. As you see yourself as a writer, you're more likely to write every day, which reinforces your identity and makes the habit more ingrained. The key takeaway here is that true behavior change is identity change. When your habits align with your identity, they become self-sustaining, and you're more likely to stick with them over the long term. Chapter 7: Building Systems for Continuous Improvement. As we near the conclusion of our exploration of atomic habits, it's important to discuss the concept of continuous improvement. Building good habits is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process that requires regular maintenance and adjustment. One of the most effective ways to ensure continuous improvement is to focus on systems rather than goals. A goal is a specific outcome you want to achieve, such as losing 10 pounds or saving $5,000. A system, on the other hand, is the process you use to achieve that goal. For example, if your goal is to lose weight, your system might include habits like exercising daily, eating healthy meals, and tracking your progress. If your goal is to save money, your system might include habits like budgeting, automating your savings, and avoiding unnecessary expenses. The advantage of focusing on systems is that they provide a framework for continuous improvement. Even after you achieve your initial goal, your system remains in place, allowing you to continue making progress. To illustrate this point, consider the story of British cycling coach Dave Brailsford. When Brailsford took over the British cycling team, they were underperforming on the world stage. To turn things around, Brailsford implemented a system of continuous improvement based on the principle of marginal gains. Marginal gains are small improvements in every aspect of performance. Brailsford and his team looked for ways to improve every area of cycling by just 1%. They made small adjustments to the rider's nutrition, bike design, training routines, and even the type of pillows they slept on. These tiny improvements, when compounded, led to dramatic results. Under Brailsford's leadership, the British cycling team went on to win multiple Tour de France titles and Olympic gold medals. The key to their success was not a single, dramatic change, but rather a system of continuous improvement that allowed them to achieve excellence over time. You can apply the same principle to your own life by focusing on building systems that support your goals. Instead of fixating on the outcome, focus on the process, the daily habits and routines that will lead to the results you want. Another important aspect of continuous improvement is reflection and review. It's important to regularly assess your progress and make adjustments to your habits and systems as needed. One way to do this is to schedule regular reflection sessions where you review your goals, habits, and systems. Ask yourself questions like, what's working well? What's not working? What changes can I make to improve my process? By regularly reviewing your progress, you can identify areas for improvement and make the necessary adjustments to stay on track. Finally, it's important to recognize that continuous improvement is a lifelong journey. There's no final destination, only ongoing growth and development. By adopting a mindset of continuous improvement, you can ensure that your habits remain aligned with your goals and that you continue to make progress over time. Final thoughts: mastering the art of small changes. In conclusion, Atomic Habits teaches us that the key to lasting change lies in the small, incremental actions we take every day. You don't need to make drastic changes or overhaul your entire life to achieve your goals. Instead, focus on building small, positive habits that compound over time. Remember that habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Just as small deposits in a bank account grow into substantial savings over time, small, positive habits can lead to remarkable results when consistently applied. To build lasting habits, focus on the following principles. Make your habits obvious by designing your environment to support them. Start small by using the 2-minute rule to make your habits easy to begin. Make your habits attractive by bundling them with activities you enjoy. Focus on identity-based habits that align with the person you want to become. Build systems for continuous improvement and regularly review your progress. By applying these principles, you can create a positive feedback loop that reinforces your habits and helps you achieve your goals. And remember, the journey to self-improvement is ongoing. There's always room for growth, and the small changes you make today can lead to significant transformations over time. So what small habit will you start today? Whether it's drinking more water, reading more books, or practicing gratitude, remember that the power to change your life lies in the small, consistent actions you take every day. Start small, stay consistent, and watch as your habits compound into remarkable results. Are you interested in the book? We got you a link in the description down below.